Uh-huh. Uh-huh. Oh man. So it's a another wonderful Redeemed Conversations Day. I am trying something new on this podcast life with being on live on Instagram and live at the same time on YouTube and Facebook. But neither here nor there. Hopefully, everybody on Instagram can hear me. I see Nick on there. If you can hear me, Nick, give me a thumbs up. If you don't mind, my friend, my brother, and I did speak to that person for you. So let's talk about that when you get a chance. Listen, you guys. Earlier today, I had a really good time. A really good time with a brother of mine, and we were talking through Daniel 5 in the Bible, and it was so cool because I got an opportunity to see how much we actually don't put ourselves in the Bible all the time. And when we don't put ourselves in the Bible all the time, we realize there's really nothing new under the sun. So what I had an opportunity to do, I had an opportunity to see and do some connecting in some of the things that I have experienced and others have experienced, and I kind of want to talk through it. And the name for today was parenting, and really the theme of it today was parenting, and parenting through honesty and vulnerability. And when you parent through honesty and vulnerability, I think it's one thing that you realize that you might not have been introduced to everything as a child that you probably would have been healthy for you too. So what I wanted to do was to take some time to kind of walk through my journey in the conversation of parenting and vulnerability. Now, I have been a young man who has been in the search of part of the parental figure since I was young. I had my dad lost my dad when I was around 15 years old, and in losing my father, there were things that you got to see at that age that were probably healthy, and other things that were not probably as healthy. But it did not stop me from the fact of saying, what are some things that I missed? What are some things that I didn't have an opportunity to really learn about? And the reason why this came up this morning during the prayer call and the Bible study was because when it came to talking through Daniel 5, just to give some backstory and some context, we were talking about Nebuchadnezzar, and Nebuchadnezzar was the king that had pillaged and went through Jerusalem. And after that, Daniel, it was the part when Daniel was on his Daniel fast, and Nebuchadnezzar had a dream. When he had the dream, he wanted to get the interpretation, and Daniel was able to give him the interpretation, and he was able to be promoted amongst Nebuchadnezzar's people and amongst his staff and team. But what happened in 5 was Nebuchadnezzar passed away and his son became king. And when his son became king, it was a different story. And his son was partying. They was doing their thug thizzle. And as they was doing their thing, a hand began to write on the wall. And he wanted to know what it meant. And so his grandmama was like, "Whoa, wait a minute. Your daddy had somebody that helped him out, so check him out." But anyway, it got us thinking, and one of the questions that came up during the Bible study was, what happens when, as a parent, we aren't able to teach our children from our mistakes openly, honestly, 100% open. And that was one of the things that came to me. And when I had it, I said, I was going to talk about it today. And so that is our topic in regards today is parenting through honesty and vulnerability and how much it can really do for you as parents and the benefits that it can do for a child. Some of the points that you kind of want to make sure that you look through is over and over we are inundated with thought process of what it really looks like to transform. You know, when we find our salvation, when we find who we are, when we're trying to be a better person, you know, who are some of the people that really can help you get to there? And I realized that as I'm parenting my boys, you realize that there is a great connection between what your next generation becomes and what you can become and what you've become. And you realize in the story, Nebuchadnezzar never told his son anything about what he had dealt with. Maybe his son saw, maybe his son didn't. But the cool part about it was it exposed the fact that if he had an opportunity to learn from his dad's mistakes, his days could have been extended. And that really kind of got me. That really kind of scared me because I said, all right, could I prepare my boys and my children for a safer, better tomorrow? Could I show them what they can do, what they're able to accomplish if I showed them my mistakes? And that was the thing that really got me. Now, what does that mean? So now I go back into my past, into where I wasn't always able to really understand the mistakes of my parents, you know? And do I think they parented me? I'm not saying they didn't parent me well. You know, my mom is phenomenal, and my dad was a great dad. And but the thing is, we grew up under a fashion of trying to always do things right, do things well. And at first, there's a certain part of my life I didn't think that I could do things as well as my parents wanted me to. And no, I didn't rebel. I wanted to. No, I didn't push back on particular things. I did want to. But as I got older and as I progressed more into who I was as a young man, I realized that there were some things that I was not prepared for. There were some things that I did not get an opportunity to really show my mom or was shown by my mom. And I kind of wanted to talk through some of those things because if you get down to it, you can prepare your kids for what's coming. We can prepare our children for what's coming. And the thing is, it's not even the fact that even if you only if you got kids, this applies to anybody that you love. Being vulnerable and honest about where you've been, what you're going through, and where who you are can allow somebody else to be better prepared for their future. And that was the thing that kind of got me, not kind of, but that was the thing that got me with Belshazzar, you know, and Daniel. So I had to have the honest conversation with myself. Did I put a poll earlier on my social media and I asked, you know, do you believe that you were parented honestly? And I had a few people that answered no. Um, and that wasn't a surprise, but I have to ask the question. If anybody else is on the chats and on here, do you believe you were parented honestly? You know, did your parents give you all the information that you believe you could have used to stay ahead of the game? And when I stay ahead of the game, I'm not talking about staying rich and not getting into bad credit things, even though that's certain things. And parents, I don't think have a problem telling us that. Some do. But being able to say, you know, son, I had a problem with anger. I had a problem with fear. One of the things that my father had a deep issue with was worry. He had he didn't have a good relationship with worry. You know, if something went wrong, he would think something was wrong. And then it was one day, I was in my studio one day and my mama came to visit. And I told her, I said, you know, I have this big feeling of not being able to shake this worry feeling like something's always going to happen. And she said, wow, that's amazing because your dad had the same vibe. And that got me. But at that time, my father had already passed. So I didn't know what he dealt or how he dealt or if he dealt with it. And if I really got down to the thought process of it, I don't think he dealt with it. So now I got to deal with it. I got to deal with the fact of saying, okay, why do you think so much? Why do you worry so much? Why do you look at things and say this could happen, this might happen, I don't know what da 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 da. What do you think? What do you think is the reason you do that? And that was the part for me that got me started down the road of self-discovery. And I could not shake it. Y'all, I couldn't shake it. And it wasn't until I really got down to why I thought what I thought and who I thought about what was being thought. What did I think about myself? And honestly, I can't tell you if I ever heard my dad, you know, give me great insight about how he felt about himself. I know he put on cologne. I know he dressed nice. I know there were things that he would often say that he wanted to accomplish. But what did he really think about himself? Coming from a man. Now, my mom, she's super awesome. You know, she's super confident. Those of you who know my mother is no joke. My mom is one, she'll call herself a bad chick in a heartbeat at 72 years old. Yes, she still believes. My mom still has hot girl summers at 72. Shout out to her leaving for Jamaica in a minute. Anyway, but it's something that I had to work through. And so I have to ask the question, what are the things that you're working through that you will then teach the new generation on how to master so they don't have to master the things that we had to master? Okay, now going back to the book, you know, I even found in this one chapter how even in, you know, those of you who have kids, you got the grandparents, you got the grandparents that spoil the kids, you know. And would you believe that in Daniel 5, the grandmother was spoiling uh, Belshazzar and telling him when he had the vision or when the hand came up in writing, instead of her saying, hey, bruh, your father had something come up too. You might want to check yourself. That ain't what she said. She said, oh, my king, you'll live forever. She didn't warn him. She coddled him. Ain't that what the former generation be doing? They be on that coddling thing. Now, I'm not saying that for any other reason than going down the road of really being able to understand what can happen to the next generation should we give them a fighting chance with our vulnerability. Should we give them a fighting chance with our minds? Should we give them a fighting chance with our mistakes and exposing them? So that was where I had the thought process. You know, I thought about it. I've been thinking about it all day. I've been thinking about it all day. I've been relaxing with the boys. I've been on and off some conference calls, doing some things. And in the midst of doing all of them and working through all of them, I've had a few things come up in my heart. And what that meant, what I really thought about was I want to train my kids in the things that have transformed my life. And I got to say, many of the things that transformed my life were things that I had to get my ass whooped on. Uh-oh, I just cussed. My bad. But I had to get whooped on. You know, different things like inconsistency. Different things, I said worry. Different things like having a hard conversation with myself on what I really felt about me and God. That was probably one of the number one things I had to realize, because one of the things that will always transfer is your understanding about who you are in the eyes of God. Now, for a while, I thought I was a mess up. For a while, I thought I was something that could not really be loved by God, but more tolerated by God. And I was like, well, that's just kind of where things are, and I get it. Um, but I wasn't inundated with that thought process as I was growing up. It didn't always happen, and that's okay. I mean, I think part of the conversation came from, you know, as parents, you'll do the best you can. As parents, you'll do what was done with you. And I want to push something new today. I want to push an agenda that says honest and open parenting, you know, honest and open, vulnerable parenting. Now, vulnerability is has several different definitions that are super scary, but in the midst of them being scary, they're effective. Ripping down the walls and ripping down the things that stop us from being able to accomplish what we can accomplish, um, because of fear. It is hard for certain people to come and say, I'm afraid of failure, so that's why I don't start. I'm afraid of being judged, and that's why I don't open my mouth. I'm afraid of being hurt, that's why I don't date. I want to date, but I can't because I'm scared. And you believe it or not, that's where a lot of people sit. And just to kind of give you some thought process, if you sit in that place long enough and you try to author and build a life long enough with never really addressing vulnerabilities, you're going to teach your children that. You'll teach your children that, Instagram. You'll show your children that you have not done the due diligence of self awareness and self discovery that would give them an opportunity to win because you were losing and you decided to turn the tables. So that's what I want to do. That's what I'm looking to do. In the midst of parenting, in the midst of even having more children, I'm like, how do we make sure that from the time they cry after coming out the womb, are they able to be met with a playbook that would give them an opportunity to progress and try? So I want to go down that road over the next few weeks. Over the next few weeks, we're going to talk about awareness. We're going to talk about the fact that, and again, I do not run a podcast that only speaks about, yeah, people and tell people what to do. I am showing folk my nitty gritty. That's where I'm coming from because I know no other way. So as I talk through that, I want to make sure that maybe you didn't have an opportunity, to have that level of honesty with your parents. And maybe your parents have gone, one of your parents or both of your parents have gone on to glory, and you're not able to have the conversation. But what if you could? What if you could take some time to dissect and really see who you could be and what you could be and what you could help your children be? One of the things that I have a huge issue with at times is staying consistent, not because of laziness, but because of prioritization. Sometimes I don't always put the best things first. I put the things that are most pressing in my mind, or sometimes there are that are most eager in my heart first, and sometimes I don't pre-plan the best. That happens sometime with the podcast. Often I want to be on air every Friday live because that's one thing I said I would do. But if it's not a show, if it's not a conference, if it's not something that I'd fly to town for, then I don't get to do this. And would you believe that started the second week of the podcast? I was on the podcast, and in the midst of doing the podcast, um, we had to go to, I think, like Selma, Alabama, or something of that nature. And it wasn't until a friend of mine was like, "Hey, I want to try to get you back home so you can get on air." And I'm like, but we got to do this. And that started that I told myself I wanted to be consistent. So that's one of the things that I fight with my boys on. If you say you're going to do something, do what you say you're going to do. If you say you're going to put the garbage out and on Tuesdays or on Monday nights, every Monday night, I should see the garbage going out. I shouldn't have to call you and remind you. You know, those are things that I mean that we will consistently fight on and work on because, and it's not, it's not no, it was no whoopings and stuff like that, but it's conversation. Like, my dude, wash the dishes. We said we was going to wash the dishes. How many people was taught consistency and not just obedience? Now, and I say obedience. Now, how many people were taught consistency? That's a go getter. Now, I know we were taught obedience, do as I say, and but truth is, I didn't really, I didn't really learn what it was to be consistent until I was an adult. So what if you could drive consistency with a child? Now, within reason, what if you could? What kind of adult are you growing? What kind of adult are you raising? If you made the things of a good adult the learning standard for a child. Just saying. What could you be? Who could you be? What could your child be? Ain't you excited to see that? I am. And those of you who are on the journey to get married, those of you who are on the journey to become a wife, a mother, a husband, or a dad, these are things that will be great for you to think about as you go down the journey of discovery of who you're meant to be and where you're meant to be. Now, with all that being said, what is one of the first things we could do? One of the first things you can tell yourself and say, hey, you know what? Um, it would be best for me to do some soul searching. I'm not going to be on here too much longer, but soul searching that says, where have I fallen short? Here goes the vulnerability place. Where didn't I deliver? Where didn't I do my best? That if I was to have a coach in this area, where could I be? Again, I tell people all the time, that's one of my things is, again, I keep going back to consistency. I want to be consistent. But then guess what? One of the first things that will pop me off with you being in relationship with you is seeing people who are inconsistent. Ain't that weird though? But that's what we do. That's what we do. What we do is we look down the nose of the people that do the things that we do. And it's a little backwards. So I'm calling it out. So I say, let's start down that road. Let's start down the road of saying, as I go to the place of really understanding what consistency can be and what I can master, that's where we start. Parenting from a place of where I failed. And I'm not afraid to talk about that, and I'm not afraid to expose that. Because one of the things that I realize that if I can teach my children what I learned about consistency while they're growing into being young men, then we're working through it together. It's a place of bonding, it's a place of understanding. And then if they master it from a young age, then I have introduced them and I have um, intertwined a great thing for them. What could you be if you were able to show yourself and show your children the things you could have done better for yourself? And mastering yourself and then teaching them and then showing them why these are things that I needed to understand. So I want you to understand. Now, going back to my mom, I told you I was going to be completely transparent. You know, one of the things that my mom would do, she wouldn't really parent all the time from vulnerability. She would parent from fear. These are two different things. To be fearful is to tell you don't go, so that the outcome that I'm afraid of doesn't happen. Versus vulnerability says, I know what can happen, I see it, and I have to move out of the way so it doesn't happen. So these are two different things, and often my mom didn't always give me that opportunity. It was a fear, you know. That was one of the things that we had to work through, her and I's relationship. So then I asked you, what are those things with you? And these are just, this is, we're not going to get too heavy, but these are some of the things that I want to make sure that we really get down to the thought process of. Because one of the last points for tonight is that you'll realize every next generation always goes further. So if you um, have your habits, and if you have the things that you know you could do better, don't think your children don't see them. Don't think people that look up to you don't see them, because when they see them, it will get either better or worse. So there it is. If I master consistency now and I tell them now, then they do their best to get better. However, if they see inconsistency with me, it will get worse the older they get, and they will learn to master the inconsistency thing that I did not master. Oh my God. VP, what's up, buddy? Oh my God. And that is where we want to try to settle out tonight. What we want to settle out to know is that if we are able, to get down to the place of being honest, the place of being honesty that says, I don't have it all together. I don't have everything that I want in play. But should I take the time to see, to study it, learn about me, and really get down to the place of mastering not just what I do well, but learning how to pull out what's dangerous and moving on from it. Y'all, that is where we got to be over the next few months. Over the next few months, I want to help you learn how to be open in your heart, learn how to be aware of who you are, and that should you have children or should you be looking to have children, y'all, we got to have the heart thought process that says we're going to prepare a better way for the next generation. That we're going to prepare a way that says, y'all, we effed up a lot of things, and I want to fix it, and I want to work through it, and I want to get it done. And once I fix what I got going on in me, I will make it your norm. That's one of the visions for me in my house. Me and my house says, I want to see the things that I don't do well, master them and get them better, and make them the norm and the floor for my children so that they can get better at it. All of my companies are named Kaizen, which is consistently improving. And that is what I am indebted to. And I want to do that. So listen, I've been on here long enough. I try to do my best to not be on here longer than 30, 35 minutes. But it's Friday. Hopefully some of you got some things that you're trying to go out and do. But if you'll allow me to pray with you and walk with you for the next few weeks as we figure out what this life of vulnerability and parenting and just living looks like. I don't want to segregate anyone thinking that you can't come in here and have the conversation about vulnerability and honesty, because it's one of the best things you can ever do for yourself. So you might not be a dad, you might not be a mom yet, so this is still good for you. So can we pray with each other real quick? Just so we can go one more time. So Father, I am in love with you, God, that you have authored us to be these individuals, that we don't have to be perfect to walk with you. God, we don't have to have it all together to walk with you. And God, we don't even have to have it all together to show people that we don't have it all together. So God, as you continue to go down the purpose road of being open and being aware and being self-sufficient in our emotions and in our vulnerability, God, I thank you for every single person that's able to hear this prayer. And even the ones that aren't hearing the prayer, God, I pray, God, that this generation has an opportunity to open their hearts for you to heal. Open their hearts, God, for you to be able to show them, and for us to be able to see what it is, God, we can do better at, improve on, and then therefore teach the next generation. God, we don't desire to teach, or we don't desire, God, to be in a place of leadership from perfection. For Father, that is a place, God, that is a pain point, God. God, I pray, God, for leaders that will be open enough to show, God, that they have not been the best. They have not done the best. They have not showed themselves to be the best, but they want to show their mistakes from a vulnerable and honest place, God, and be able to help the next generation be able to see the landmines that are coming, to see the things that are coming, and just be able, God, to walk in an honest, open place. But Father, I thank you. And anyone, Father, who is still hurt from a place, God, that mommy or daddy, God, did not do the best job at, God, I stand in the gap for their hearts. God, I stand in the gap, God, for them to be able to know that there is a remnant few who are out there to help, God, with the repairing of their heart, to help, God, with the places, God, that they might not be able to see. But God, that whatever is necessary, Lord, that you are able to walk us through it all. And Father, we thank you. We bless your name for it all. And God, we counted all joy that, God, that you've been with us through all of this. So God, I thank you. I honor you and I bless your name for us to be able to continue on this road of self-awareness. We love you. We honor you, God. And it's in your Son, Jesus the Christ's name, that we do pray. Amen. Y'all, beloved, I thank you so much for hanging out with me. I love doing these, and we'll continue to do them more. But as we go through this, I pray that you'll be able to walk with me through a place of vulnerability. I love y'all, and there's nothing you can do about it. Put on the comments, let us know how we could serve you better, how I could serve you better, and whatever be necessary. I love y'all. And remember, Redeemed Conversations is here again every Friday. Y'all try to hold me accountable, won't you? Please. I love you. This is ARL Redeemed Conversations. Have an amazing night. More great days to come. Bye.